Hello and welcome to the mixtapes. I'm Nikki and I'm here with my co-host Amber. Hi, Amber.
Hello.
Tell me something good.
I am so excited to tell you about something good. We just got baby chicks on Sunday.
My
Yeah,
God.
they're really cute and they chirp all day. I look forward to waking up in the morning and going upstairs to see them.
How
We
many did you get?
we have four. We have four baby chicks.
Four.
And they're really cute. And they're gonna grow up to be really cool looking. They're like gonna look kind of like black with like kind of silver edging on their feathers. Like they're gonna be like chunky girls. And I love it. They're gonna be thick girls.
We love a chunky girl.
And we've been trying to think of names for them. I was like, oh, we should do the Powerpuff Girls, but then we're like, they're so like not Powerpuff Girls. So we came down to Greek goddesses. Chicks are like fierce. So
Yeah.
we're gonna name them after Greek goddesses. We haven't narrowed it down, but we're trying to pick four. I really like Athena as one, and then there's like a one of like fertility or like there's a lot of names that I didn't know, like of Greek goddesses. Oh, Bia is one. I really like the goddess Bia.
Yeah.
So I get to pick four goddesses, and I'm really excited about naming them. And then more so, my son's kindergarten class is going to hatch eggs and we are trying to order, or I think we did. We ordered for the kindergarten class these chickens that are called silkies, but they're like the divas of chickens. They have
Oh,
like
okay.
really like fluffy little feathers, and like their face is like covered. All you see is a little beak. So we're
What?
gonna get four more of those um, when they're all hatched and ready to go, and we are gonna name those ones after Powerpuff.
So when the chickens are hatched in the class, they're going to your guys' house?
Yes, because they need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So we're like, we're about to have eight chickens in our lives running around our backyard.
Y'all starting a farm, huh?
Really, seriously, like an urban farm. We got like planter boxes. We're going to start planting more stuff.
So cool.
Yeah, we're just like trying to make the most of where we live.
Wait, congratulations. Can the boys name a chick?
So that's why I was sticking with the Powerpuff Girls because one of my kiddos like really, really likes naming them the
Okay.
Powerpuff Girl names. And there are four nobody ever talks about. And if you're true fans out there like me, there's a fourth Powerpuff Girl. She happens to be the brown one, and her name is Bliss. Yes, there's a
Wait, there's a fourth Powerpuff Girl and she's a brown girl and she got cut out of the show?
she has
Classic.
purple hair. Well, she didn't get cut
Stupid.
out of the show. She just wasn't introduced initially, but she was made first. And then, right, typical. I see your face like, what?
Yeah.
Well, she was made first by Professor X or Utonium, whatever his name is. And something went wrong. She wasn't quite what he wanted. I know it's that. And so
Wonder why.
she's my favorite one because I was just like, girl, same. She got kind of like discarded and she comes in later episodes, but she's the older sister. So, like I said, her name is Bliss, and then there's Blossom, Buttercup, and Bubbles. You have to read her story. You'll be like, oh my gosh, like, why?
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's the big sister of the three girls.
Okay. Got it. So is one of the chicks gonna be, well, you're going with the goddess theme.
Yeah, so our current chickens are going to be named after Greek goddesses, but our silkies will be probably named after the Powerpuff Girls because they do have like cute, fluffy, you know,
Yeah.
fun feathers. Like, but like a friend of mine said that they're like the divas of the chickens. I mean, we might if somebody has suggestions for other names, like most people are like Golden Girls. I'm like, everybody names chickens after Golden Girls.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I want something like different. So it could be Powerpuff Girls. I'm open to that. They have to be they're girls, so
Right.
girl power names.
Right, for sure, for sure. I have a question, a stupid question. So are you guys gonna eat the eggs?
Probably. And we're also going to give them to people, sell them to people. I mean, we don't eat a lot of eggs, so it's not like we're going to be able to keep up with the amount of
Mhm.
eggs that chickens produce. So I don't know what it'll turn into. We might be going to farmers markets and being like,
That's so cool. Oh my God, I love that. I love you and your family. You guys are so cute.
thank you. All right, your
Like a
turn.
little farm.
We're trying. Now we got to grow some things. We have a beehive too.
That's so cool. Good for y'all.
I just need like a bougie like label for my honey, but like we got the beehive that like you just like turn the little like faucet and the honey comes out, and like you only get to harvest it once because in the second time they produce it's for their food for the winter.
Mhm.
But like also save the bees. Like I love, anything that's gonna help the environment. We need our bees.
Right.
So like this is also why we're doing this because fun fact, Daryl and I actually used to be vegan, husband and I.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know.
And I think we're trying to like slowly slip back into like maybe more of a vegetarian lifestyle.
Mhm.
But we were vegan, both of us, because we didn't like the idea of, eating animals. And so, but then like we broke that after like, probably about like 5 years. And we realized like we don't have to eat like every meal does not have to be meat. We kind of went a little crazy for like a year. And then now we're like, okay, well, like this doesn't also feel good to our body. So like, how can we find a balance? So
Yeah.
slowly moving towards a more of a vegetarian lifestyle, but we'll probably occasionally eat meat. But I don't think I'm gonna be able to eat chicken as much,
Because
knowing
you're gonna have chickens? Yeah.
actual chicken.
Probably not. Probably not.
My little babies.
Just now, like, I was thinking about the picture you sent me of the chicks and how I ate chicken today.
Don't feel bad. It's not like I'm never gonna eat chicken. I don't know. I think I will be less like.
Well, the thing about me with chicken is the only meat that I eat because I've always been okay with eating chickens and not okay with other animals. And now I'm like, oh my God, stop the cameras. Like,
So there's like this.
they're your pets.
They are. They're like our.
You can't eat your
So,
pets.
like we will never eat them. 'Cause,
Right.
even if they like something happens, like they pass away, like we are not eating them
No, no, I don't think you
because our kids like are attached to them.
should.
But
Crazy.
there's like, just like there's racism, there's also like speciesism, like where, people kind of like categorize like, oh, we won't eat this animal, but we will eat this.
Hmm,
Like, how about don't eat any of them? So we like kind of,
period.
it's like a moral dilemma, but we'll see. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to find a balance.
Well, that's so exciting. Congrats on the farm and all the animals.
Next time you come out this way, you got to come see the chickies.
I do.
Okay, your turn. Tell me something good.
Okay, I have a couple. I have two something goods that I was thinking of. One of them is I met a new friend recently and through the women's group that I'm in. And she was actually one of the women that I referred to when we did that ancestral healing podcast because she's one of the ladies who was tying you. And she's really cool and like the same age. We've like totally gotten along. And it's been really nice to like have a friend that's not related to work, if that makes sense. But she texted me the other day. I think I sent you a screenshot and she was like, my something good is, and then she was talking about her day, and then she was like, what's your something good? And I just loved that she was using our little catchphrase. And coincidentally, I sent our podcast to a professional group chat I'm in, and somebody else had responded and was like, I love the something good aspect of your guys' podcast. So I just think that that's so cute that like people are enjoying our something good part of our podcast. So thank you to those of you who are listening and enjoying our something good and using it catchphrase. That's so cute. This makes my heart happy.
Not our something
So,
good trendy.
right? So that's my hashtag something good. But then another something good is I feel like it was funny. I was thinking about what I wanted to say. And I wanted to talk about how I went to a sound healing Reiki event on Friday. And then I was like, damn, these people are going to be like, all this bitch does is talk about racism and go to Reiki sound healing.
Nikki, and
Like, how much healing is left to do? Like, every week I'm being healed. So, um,
that's
yeah.
good. I wish I,
But actually,
I wish when I was like your age that I was investing that time into myself. So keep it up. I think it's beautiful and you should be proud of it. And that is your jam. And that's what fills your bucket and brings you joy. So why not?
thank you. I appreciate that. And something recently clicked in my head just about that. Alone, like you just said, when I was your age, I wish I was. Just about a year ago, when I went through my like breakup, like my symbolic divorce, you could say, like, I was like, I need to find my husband now. I need to get pregnant now. I need to start my life now. I'm 27, blah, blah, blah. And like this whole year, I've realized like I'm not old. And seeing even my sister like go through pregnancy and birth and motherhood and marriage all in one year, her life is great. but it's very different from my life. And I'm not ready to give up my like independence and freedom. So I do feel like that's something that I'm more at peace with now, realizing that once I do find my person and have a family, I can't go back from that. So let me enjoy the solitude that I have right now. This is a gift. This is a gift, and I'm trying to maximize my time. Um, and I was thinking about the spirituality component of it today because there's a lot going on at work, drama wise. And it was making me think of how much I've grown over these past 3 years being in as a DEI director, and how, like, the first year I was crashing out over everything. And it's just one of those jobs that's always going to have a problem, always going to have pushback. You cannot make everybody happy. And so much of my first year and second year in that position, I was just crashing out. Every time I got an email, I would crash out. I was always just like freaking out all the time, crying every day, like just freaking out. Like sometimes I would take that out on other people, other times it was more internal, but either way, like I was so unhealed. And it's crazy because I don't know what happened, but I've been realizing this recently with all the stuff that I have been going through. Wow, like I'm actually managing this really well. And problems are not being solved as quickly as I want them to. And there's still conflict, but I guess it's that I'm learning how to live with conflict, which is really interesting and like kind of different than what I'm used to. I'm used to just like freaking out all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. Can I ask you a quick question? So you said the first 2 years. This is your 3rd year in not the same school, but 3rd
Hmm.
year in this position,
Hmm.
right? And I was gonna tell you after I clarified that anytime, especially as when I started off as an educator, that 3rd year was, like, on point, and even though, like, I'm, you know, almost 20 years older than you, I have found myself crashing out a lot in the last, like, especially this 2nd year in this position. This is my 2nd year in a leadership position, and I'm, like, older,
Yeah.
and I feel like I hear myself, like, when things bother me or, like, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm so stressed about this." I'm like, "Oh, but next year, I'm gonna, like, this is" like, I'm taking note. I notice that I'm taking note, like, things bother me or, like, I'm not managing stress as well as I would like. I'm grateful to be in the Black Educators Wellness Group. I think, like, this group is helping me work through trauma, but it's also helping being an educator of color. But it's also making me make these connections of, well, I don't wanna continue down this path of not being able to manage my stress or not being able to protect my peace. And so we were talking about rest at our last session, and, rest for, like, women of color is so hard to, like, really pinpoint or, like, prioritize because we feel like we gotta solve everything and, like, no, heal the world, but I think we can do our jobs better, and you seem so, like, more restful in this 3rd year, and because I knew you
Yeah.
in your 2nd year, you seem more restful and more mindful in your 3rd year
Hmm.
because you prioritize, like, "This is not I'm gonna take care of myself," and I am so inspired because I'm like, I cannot wait to get to that 3rd year where I'm like, I've learned so much from this wellness group. Um, I started, like, this new, like, philosophy of, like, let them. Like,
Hmm.
people think this about you or, feel like
Okay.
they wanna categorize you or tell you that, like, this didn't happen or this did happen. Let them. Let
Hmm.
them. And I feel so excited, like I said, to move into my 3rd year next year
Yes.
with this, like, let them, because 'Cause I'm gonna prioritize my peace, I'm gonna
Yeah.
center joy for me because I love my job, but this is a job.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and when I say I
Yeah.
love my job, I love working with children, and I can always do something magical because that's just who I am with kids. It doesn't have to be like this, but I'm gonna center my peace and joy and prioritize boundaries. No, I'm not gonna stay late, and no, I'm not gonna, like, respond to an email at 10 o'clock at night. People's urgency is not my emergency,
Yes.
and what they think of me or how they think I'm handling situations is not gonna be an emergency to me. It's not gonna, like, categorize who I am. Let them think whatever they want. I'm still gonna respond in the best way that I know how.
Yes.
And now that the year's
Yes.
coming
I
to an
love
end,
that.
like, I'm, like, shifting. So it's really cool to hear you say that in, like, you're coming up on your 3rd year. I feel like you're about to be, like, even more of a powerhouse moving into your 4th year.
Wait, it's so sweet. And I'm so happy that, like, you're realizing that because that is very true. I think the second year is actually the hardest, in my opinion. I haven't gotten to year 4 because I've never worked a job for 4 years in a row. So this is gonna be the first time that I've had the same job for 4 years, which is crazy. But I was gonna say about the second year, I think what's so challenging about stepping into a leadership role is your first year, you kind of have a little bit of slack, like slight, a little bit, just a little bit, where
Right.
you can make mistakes and it's like, well, I'm new. And then the second year, it's like you can't make as many mistakes, but also they are giving you the pressure of someone who's been doing it for 10 years. So it's like there's no jump. And then it's like by year 3, you actually know what you're doing. And it's not that you haven't known what you're doing this whole time, but it's like a different level of confidence, you know? But yeah, I mean, that's beautiful that you're stepping into that. And I love the let them mentality. I think it's so important. And I totally agree. That's kind of where I'm feeling right now, too, of I always navigate the world with a sense of self-consciousness and a consciousness of how I'm being perceived. And recently, it's just like something clicked. I don't know, maybe because my prefrontal cortex finally developed or whatever, but I was like, you know what? These people are not paying my bills. These people don't have the responsibility to hire or fire me. Only one person does, and I don't have any beef with them. So this can't be that important. So let me take a second and think about it. And I think also, it's funny, I had the same conversation today with a student that when you navigate the world as someone who's unbothered by what other people think of them or their preconceived notions of how you should be acting, that is going to trigger people. And people are going to poke you to get a reaction. You know, I was talking to this young woman and she's a high schooler and she was like, I just don't get it, like there's just drama all around me all the time. She's such a reserved girl. Like, she's an introvert. She's really good at school. She's great at sports. So she's got her little friends, but she's not a problem starter at all. And these big personalities within the school are constantly like targeting her, and it's not bullying, but it's to get her to react. They want her to give them their attention. Does that make
Yeah. Oh,
sense?
100%. Yeah.
And it's like I almost noticed while I was talking to her about it and giving her advice, I was like, "Wait, same." Like, I also have this experience. And I've just gotten to the point where it's like, I just don't want to be involved. Like, I don't want to be anywhere near any sort of drama or like, shit talking.
Yeah.
I think sometimes stating facts can be contributed as talking shit in a work environment when it's really not, when it's really just people are saying, like, this is a problem. But there is a fine line between the two. And I'm just so uninterested in talking shit
Yeah. Like that
because
sounds like you're
why?
growing.
Oh my God, thanks. Quite the observation. So yeah,
No.
I just went on like a 10-minute tangent, but that was my something good growth. And yeah, but
That is amazing. That's something amazing because I love when we have these like periods in our lives where we can say, like, I can look back and see that I've transformed into like something else
yeah,
because I got tired of the same bullshit almost.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want the drama. I'm above it. And it's not, the drama's not going to find you or that you're not going to have problems or people are going to piss you off and you're going to like, get caught up in something. But how do you choose? I think what you said in our last podcast, reacting versus responding, that's going to matter. How do you react versus, or respond versus react? You know, it's still going to come your way, but how are we going to respond mindfully?
so funny you said that. That has still been like top of mind since I read it and since we talked about it, the react versus responding, or responding is a preference, right? Because I pulled a tarot card this morning and it was the Queen of Swords. And essentially it was saying like you have to respond and not react. And like tarot speaking, the little journal. But I just thought that that was crazy. I was like, wow, that just really keeps coming up,
That's because the
you
universe is
know?
trying to tell you something. Keep doing what you're doing, and people are going to try to distract you, but you keep on that path of, I'm going to respond. I'm going to question, is this worth my energy? Is this something that I want to feed? You know what I mean? Or am I just going to let it come at me and roll past me?
Right. And it's so important not to give it power.
Yes. And like I said, I almost 20, I'm not quite 20 years older, but I'm like older
Yeah.
than you. And I know I could speak from experience, like even the lessons that I've learned over the years, like in my 20s, in my 30s, I still get triggered by certain events or situations. And then I'm like, is this worth my energy? 'Cause I don't feel like myself. It's bringing me out of my character. It's bringing out an ugliness in. It's making me feel like not like myself. So I want to continue to be mindful of that. And it's a practice. Like you have to try that like every day almost sometimes, depending on what's coming at you, especially in this political
Yeah.
climate.
The synchronicities are crazy because you just said it's something you have to consistently do. And that damn book by Patrice Kalors, she talks about that. Forgiveness is an active process. You have to wake up every day and forgive. It is an active process to be forgiving someone. Like it is an active, and Bell Hooks says something similar about love. Love is a choice, right?
Yeah.
It's a practice that we're going to continue. You have to choose, and continue to choose. So, but I just, yeah, the synchronicities are crazy, huh? Spirit be speaking to us.
You said something about how, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm 27. I got to even get married. And one point you thought this. And that was me when I was like 26, 27 years old too. I had a kid and I wasn't with her father. And I was like, I had this like pressure because society tell me that like I wasn't good enough because I was like a young black single mom. And so I got it in my head, I'm not going to be a statistic. And I hate that. I did that to myself, but I was so determined to like prove that I was going to be better than that. So I was like, oh, I should like find someone and like be married. So my like my kid has a father and I need to like have this marriage. And I was like chasing this idea. And
Mhm,
when I stopped chasing the idea, it just happened. But then it's like, okay, it happened. Now what do you do? It's every day you have to wake up, especially when you're married, and be like, I'm gonna choose to
mhm.
love this person, be with them, and it's not gonna be like the movie. Like, I mean, I know everybody
Yeah.
knows that, but like, you do kind of like tuck away in your head, like, oh, it's so romantic. It is not romantic every day.
Mhm,
You gotta like put up with like all the things somebody does that's gross and weird and annoying. You know, things happen in the world, like political views shift and change
mhm,
because of what's happening. And especially like in an interracial relationship, for me, it's like, oh, well, when we met, politics wasn't an issue. But then, like, when Trump was elected for the second time, and I was all upset, my husband was like, well, why are you upset? You weren't upset before when he was elected the first time. And I'm like, because I saw what he was able to do and what it brought out in people. I had to explain that to him. We both had to make this choice of, okay, we are trying to understand each other in this new shift and we're making a choice to keep moving forward together and like have a mutual respect and understanding for not necessarily differences of opinions, but like he felt like I was crashing out about like a lot of things that I was because I feel like it's valid. And I'm like, he's not crashing out enough. And so finding like a common ground takes work. And I said, I'll just say, protect your peace and your freedom for as long as you can, because you never know, where things will lead you. And I'm still making an active choice to commit to this relationship because I love him and I want to be in this relationship. But there was a little chunk of time where I was like, what I want to do because I think I had an expectation of like what love and marriage should look, and I had to reevaluate that and just not necessarily change my expectations. Yes, at the same time, yes, I did have to change my expectations, and not lower them, but adjust how I was seeing the world and how he was seeing the world because we are navigating the world as different people.
right. I have a wondering, and part of that stems from a story, a very short story. One of my exes was a white man, and politics was kind of an issue. He said he was like a libertarian, which is not a Republican or conservative, but is not a super liberal person either, right? And I remember one day asking him, well, you're going to vote for me, right? because one day I'll run for office. And he was like, I don't know. It depends on what you're running on and what's your platform. And that stuck to me because I was like, ew, it shouldn't matter what the fuck I'm running on. If you're my partner, let's assume at that time that I run for office, what the hell? So I'm actually curious for you, like, do you feel like you guys have found, and it's okay if you don't feel comfortable sharing, but do you feel like you have found that common ground? And then I'm also curious, do you have advice for people who are married to partners who don't have the same political views?
So it's not that we don't have the same political views. So I think that that's one thing to consider. It's not like he definitely stand for a lot of the same things. I think what it was the way I was letting everything impact me was not impacting him the same way. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like, okay, for example, I'm on social media way more than he is. He's not even on social media. So I was taking in all of these comments that people were saying about Kamala Harris, and also like the racism that like people feel like is permissible because, and so I was letting that kind of consume me in a way that was like negatively impacting, and not in a healthy way. And it was like I was a constant spiral of negativity, and I was irritable and angry, and like I was mad at the world, and I still am. But I think my husband was like, "Why are you letting this get to you so much?" And I was like, "Because it's impacting people that look like me. It's impacting people that don't look like me. That's why I care about it so much." And so I had to truly be able to name it in a way where I wasn't focusing on the petty stuff, but more like the actual issues,
Hmm.
and decisions that were being made. And then when I connected it to like, hey, like there's this conference that we look forward to like every year not happening, he was like, I get it. Like he got it, but he was like, no, I really get it because I know this is important. And he'll say things that I feel like, okay, like you're still with me, you're still understanding where I'm coming from. You're not just like this naive white man. Like you actually do get the experiences. So they had to like find ways to, I guess, explain how I felt without being like, well, so and so said. And I had to take the pettiness out, and we were able to get back on the same page. And then he was like, okay, but at the same time, are you going to let this consume you? Well, no. So, you know what I mean? Like, I had to also like compromise and like, because like it was impacting our household. Like, if I'm like stressed and angry, walking around, everything is a problem. That's not helpful to anybody.
Sure, sure, sure.
So it's like, how am I going to channel this energy to where I can actually have a voice and say things and speak out about what I feel is, and what's racially unjust or what's unfair to like people that look like me or or don't look like me, um, but just like communities that are being impacted, but not take it like this is happening. I won't say it's not happening because I have definitely experienced it, but I think it was like, how am I not letting it like consume?
Hmm.
Does that make sense? And I don't know as far as for like advice, I don't know if I'm the expert because I'm still navigating this. This really feels new to me, this time around. To be honest, like I've cared about like politics and like, state elections and national elections, but at this time I feel I was more vocal and passionate about it. And that was new for him too, because he's like, wait, this is not the person that you were, 4 years ago. And it wasn't like he doesn't try not to like throw him under the bus. He doesn't even like vote for like, presidential elections personally because he doesn't believe in like the power of his vote. And some people do think that. And so I think that's also where we clashed because I was like, no, it like matters. But I knew this going in, I knew that this was who he was. And I think that if I was to give anybody advice, I think that you gave a really good example of like the questions that you ask when you're dating somebody. Um, especially of a different race, is like, here's what I believe. What do you believe? Here's what I'm passionate about. What do like
Yeah.
when you're dating, I think that would be probably the advice I would give is like, know what you're going into because like I can't be surprised that he's like, meh, I don't care, and I'm like, this is like horrible.
Right, you knew that. Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
honestly,
I knew.
Amber, like it feels like this isn't necessarily a difference in beliefs that you guys have. It's actually, it's like you believe the same things to an extent. He's just more non-political and he's more just confused about why all of a sudden you're so political. And it's not that he doesn't want to support you. I think he's just like, what is this? Like, and so that's a different problem. It's less serious than just having different views. You know what I mean? So just to clarify, it doesn't sound like you have different political views at all.
No, we don't. We don't have different views. I think like we met 7 years ago. I was not as passionate about what's happening in the world 7 years ago. I will be honest.
Which is valid. It sounds like he doesn't want you to not care about the things. I think he's more so just looking out for you. This is really taking a toll on you. You know what I mean? Which is just a totally different thing. So I'm happy to hear that. And I think that your experience over the last 7 years would resonate with a lot of people. A lot of people in general don't get involved until it directly impacts them. And that's a normal human behavior. I know there's a lot of guilt and shame associated with it, but to an extent, it's normal when when you don't have to think about it in that way.
Exactly. And I have named that for him like you have that privilege of not having to
Mhm,
think about it because you're a white male. And he's owned that,
mhm.
which I think we would be a bigger problem if he wasn't able to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, yeah, I totally agree.
Right. Right.
And I think that that was even something that I didn't have to point out that, in this situation, this is something that he's named early on. Like he does recognize that privilege that he has navigating the world as a white man.
Mhm.
And that was like one thing for me that was like, okay, at least you're not delusional, because then we would have
Yeah.
a different story. But he's like, no, no, I get it. I definitely know I'm navigating this world
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
differently. And one time I asked somebody for advice, actually, who was a black male in a interracial relationship. He's married to a white woman, and I like was like, well, like here's what I'm experiencing, and he told me that because I was like getting all caught up, and he's like, how does he defend and protect and stand up for you in like the real world, like in public, in the world? He was like, if he stands up for you out in the world when you're out in the world, or like against his family if it comes up, then you're safe.
Mhm.
And not that I was like, not that I was feeling unsafe, but he was just like, let's really think about the priorities here. And I had to think about like, situations I've been in. And yes, every single time he stood up for me. He's not going to fight battles on TikTok or Instagram. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because that's just not who he is. But if somebody did something, to me or said something to me or our kids, that was racially charged. Oh yeah, I know he would be like, absolutely not. He's shown that, and he doesn't have to prove that to me, but that's who he is. And I
Right.
think that that's something that I would say to women of color or men of color that are dating someone or married to someone outside of their race, especially if they're white. Like, how do they stand up for you with their family? How do they stand up with you with friends or in public? Because people look at us. Like we talked about this like on our first podcast, like our episode, the stares and the looks. Like somebody came up to us in the Home Depot, and my little 5-year-old was a little baby, and he's got really curly hair, and they're like, white woman. She was like his hair. My husband was like, oh, hell no. Like some people would not have, in some
Mhm.
situations would stand up. And so like he was just like, you don't do that. Like he's like, hey, you don't just randomly touch anybody, but he's like, you definitely don't touch people of color like their hair. He's not a puppy. So
Yeah.
I just have like a lot of examples of times where I was like, this happened, or like say I had something at work and he was like, no, that was and I was like, you're telling me I was like, I thought I was crazy, but yeah, you see it too. So he's aware. And I think that goes a long way.
That's beautiful. And you deserve that. I'm so glad that your husband gives you that because you deserve that. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's all anyone wants really is a person who's going to have their back. And I do think it's important as a woman of color, especially with white men, to have that security. So I love that. It reminded me when you said talk like, does he stand up for with his family or whatever? Of a couple things. One thing that it reminded me of is there was a guy I was seeing, a white man who was like, this actually happens to me too much, like with men of all different races, but it's like once they find out what I do for work, they just go on and on about how their family is so conservative. And I'm like, okay. Like they want to like, vent to me about how they're better than their family because they're not conservative, which I do think is an experience a lot of people in my generation have. And there's nothing wrong with that experience, but it's like, why are you telling me this right now? Like,
You want me to know you're one of the good ones, kind of
right,
thing? Yeah.
right. Like, and this one guy in particular, it's like we were at dinner and he was just going on and on. He was like, yeah, like my dad got my dog a chew toy of AOC. And I was literally just sitting there like, what? And he was like, yeah, he got a chew toy of AOC for the dog. And so the dog chewed her up. And it's just so funny because he runs in the room and he has AOC hanging by his mouth. And I literally said nothing in that moment. And when I went home and reflected on it, I was like, what the fuck?
But he thought it
It
was
hurt.
funny?
He was trying to be funny. It's true. It sounds like it's a true story that he was trying to tell me to be funny, but also prove how conservative his parents are. But it's like that, like, it's like you put me in the dog's mouth. Do you know what I mean?
Like, that's not even conservatism, that's, like, straight up racism, like, I
Right.
feel
Like, I'm
like
just like,
you can be conservative and not be racist. I know that you
I
probably
disagree
don't.
with that, but we don't need to get into that right now.
I'm not
But
conservative, but I'm just saying, like, I
I
think
disagree with
you
that.
can uphold some values, for yourself in some regard, and now that I'm, like, pausing to think about what I'm saying, I'm like, "Well,
Listen, not in their business of changing your mind,
but,
but
like, here's my thing, though, like, I remember, like, it always being Democrat versus Republican, right? I never felt super harmed though by like Republican views until like the MAGA movement. You know what I mean? Let me actually back up. The first time I ever voted for a presidential election was in college for Obama. So that was the first time that I was able to vote and give my opinion on that and weigh in. And honestly, I knew America was racist, but I was like, oh, they're really racist because people were like mad about
mhm.
Obama, and I watched that and I was like, okay. So, but I don't know if it was necessarily because there was like, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but
There wasn't party polarization. Some vocabulary. Party polarization wasn't a thing. There were lots of people that were in the middle and could identify as Republican or Democrat. Yeah. I actually have a question. So, to share our age difference, when Obama was elected, I was in middle school and we had a viewing of his inauguration. It was a big deal. And I just remember being like, I don't understand what's happening, but I know this is important.
yeah.
So I'm curious for you as a young Black woman, what did that feel like to vote for Obama?
So when I voted, I was actually in my last year of college. So I wasn't like 18, like I was older. And I was student teaching, and I had these two older Black women that I was like in the classroom, and I was like so excited for them because they were like in their 50s. I was in my 20s, so
Yeah.
they were like, "This is such a big movement." My family was like, really excited about it. And he ran on this dream, hope, and it was inspiring. And I remember listening to his speeches and just, my goodness, this is amazing, inspiring to see a man of color really talking about some really great things. And I felt like when Obama talks, like you listen. So
Yeah.
he wasn't just saying things to say it, he was actually talking about things that he wanted to make a change and do. And it felt like hope and like something that like we could look forward to. But I remember I was actually in Louisiana, and Louisiana, I I love it and hate it at the same time. It was at the time and probably still is kind of like back in the times of racism, like pretty heavily to feel it. And so I was at this elementary school as a student teacher, and the two teachers I was in the classroom with were like the handful of Black teachers that they had at this school. And so I remember it was on election day when they announced the results. They had their little pins that said Obama, and they were like, secretly holding it up to each other in the hallway, like, haha, like it was only like just a few sprinkling of Black teachers. Like they were like, we're so excited. But there
So
was like a
cute.
dominant group of white teachers that were angry, mad that day. And this is a school that was like pretty much all the students were Black. And so when I look back at it, it actually hurts my heart that, the Black teachers that I looked up to felt like they couldn't truly be like openly excited because they were afraid of backlash, like even like down to the principal, because there was like white people in the South at the time that were like, oh hell no, we are not on board with this. And that's when I realized this is a problem. I thought this was a good thing and I was excited about it.
Yeah.
And things like kind of moved. like, even though he did a great job and I was glad that he was able to serve 2 terms, things went downhill really rapidly because of the anger.
Mhm.
I think even he has a book, The Audacity of Hope. It's like the audacity that a black man or a biracial man actually, because I know that like everybody's like, oh, he's a black man, he's a black man. And that's where that like,
I know,
racial
the white mom, yeah.
stuff, he has a white mom. He wasn't running around going, I'm a black man, I'm a black man, I'm a black man.
Mhm.
But it was like always remind thrown in his face or like our faces. And I'm not saying that he's not a black man. Like he can identify however he wants, but that was not the platform that he was running on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I think people want AOC to be run for president. I'm like afraid.
I know.
I'm so inspired by her, but also like, very afraid because they showed us who they were this last election. And I don't want women of color to always have to come in and fix
I
things and
know.
sweep it
I
up. Like
know. I know.
I don't know. Like I want to be hopeful, but after this recent election, I literally for like the week wore all black. I was so depressed because it wasn't even about Kamala Harris losing. I really thought like we had come further than this as a country. And clearly we hadn't. And it felt like the idea of a black woman doing anything great, like America doesn't like us. Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah. I know.
A reminder of that of like, oh, like y'all really don't value us. Y'all really would rather pick someone who was clearly not the best choice on morals, on politics, on so many things because you just can't stand to see a woman or a woman of color or a person of color in charge. Because old white men are afraid of losing their voice and power that they've had for centuries. And I'll stand on that.
Mhm. It's just so heavy what you just said. Oh, obviously I agree with you. There's a really good book by Tennessee Coates. You know him?
Who is it?
Tennessee Coates.
I feel like I've heard that before.
He's the author of Between the World and Me is his most popular book that he wrote after Trayvon Martin was killed. It's a letter to his teenage son, who was obviously a black boy. But he's wrote a bunch of great books, but one of the ones that stuck with me is called We Were 8 Years in Power, which is about the Obama years and the backlash that happened after. And yeah, I mean that's just or the white lash, we should call it.
Oh, yes, I have one of his books. I have Between the World and Me.
That one is yeah, that's a great book for sure. But his book, We Were 8 Years in Power, it's a really powerful read, just talking about systemic racism in America and how every time we take a step forward, it's 90 steps back. But that doesn't mean we should stop. I think with Obama, something that, and I saw it with Kamala as well, is in the circles I run in, it's like Obama was not progressive enough. People say he was a war criminal, etc. He supported Israel. And those things are true. But I always felt and still feel super protective over him because at the end of the day, what he did for us, like as black and brown people, is a sacrifice. Like
100%.
he sacrificed his life for that. Like, and yeah, I'm sure he did a lot of fucked up shit. And honestly, a lot of presidents do. All of them do. The presidency and the government and the way it's structured is white supremacist. It was founded on slavery and colonization and genocide. It's bad. Like, I don't think there could ever be a good president. To
No.
be honest, I really don't. Like, so for me, it's like I don't care that he did all those things. I do, but I'm so conscious of how I talk about him because it's important. And I feel like the same thing happened with Kamala and like so many people thinking she wasn't left enough. And I do agree with that. But at the end of the day, she needed to be the president.
Well, we would have
And
been
we needed that.
safe. We could have kept
Yeah,
moving forward.
exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
if I'm gonna be realistic about, like, policies and what she was standing for, I agree with you that I felt like I needed more. There was a lot of times I would
Hmm.
hear her speak, and I'm like, "Yeah, great." I don't wanna hear how the other person is not good enough. I wanna hear what
Yeah.
you're gonna do, and I'm not
Yeah.
trying to, like, diss her. I voted proudly, and I'll vote again if I needed to,
Mhm.
I would have never changed that decision, but I wanted more of, "Here's how we're gonna keep moving forward as a country." But would she have protected, where we were? Absolutely. where we were trying to like get towards, that would have it feels like we're wasting time in these 4 years. You know what I mean? That we're
Yes, and I have to just say something that to me is a glaring example of this is actually the policies on Palestine. Because if Kamala was at least willing to have a conversation, and Trump is trying to exterminate the Palestinian people. So you're telling me that you didn't vote for Kamala in because you're supporting this group of people, but as a result, there is a man who wants them all dead in office. You understand what I'm saying?
right.
I just feel like we don't get as much slack, like, to make mistakes. Like, I'm talking about Kamala, like, she didn't get that. And even, like, it's so crazy because even, like, Hillary, like, in her mess, and Hillary's a mess, but she's the first person I ever voted for,
Okay.
and that mattered to me. The fact that I went into the booth and voted for a woman, even though she was a white woman, even though I wanted Bernie to be the candidate, even though, at the end of the day, when I went into the booth and I checked that box, I cried
Yeah.
because that mattered.
Yes.
And it's like, we lost that. I don't even want to talk about Joe Biden. And then we had an opportunity and we lost that, with
And
Kamala.
I
And
think
it's
that's
like,
yes, no, and I think that that's the difference. Like we both are like, we'll put respect on Obama's
mhm,
name. We'll put respect on Kamala's name. The last 4 years with Biden, it wasn't like I was clicking my heels, but he wasn't causing more harm. But I think that there's a difference between the people. I know that like it's always like, oh, we're so sensitive. I feel like, liberals or people who like just, really want everybody to just have a voice and live their
mhm,
life. At the end of the day, I just don't think the government should tell us what to do with our bodies, who we should love.
right.
I feel like that's reasonable. And I feel like there are candidates that are just going to protect that, you
Uh-huh.
know, versus like what somebody else is doing right now. But people idolize and worship and make their support for Trump like a whole personality that is
Mhm.
gross. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if Kamala was
Yes.
president, it wouldn't be like, that's gonna be my whole personality. I'm just like, look, let's just put this safe choice, who's
Yes.
out for our best interests for the most part to protect where we have come, like from where we've come from. This person is just going to keep holding us steady until like maybe a more like qualified, stronger me. I'm not saying she wasn't qualified, but like I wanted more from her. I did. But like she was going to keep us moving in the trajectory that we were
Yeah.
on versus somebody who's undoing years of work,
Mhm.
um, and causing so much harm and just undoing it and like just leading with hate.
It's so, like, yes, 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 yes.
It's the hate part. It's like,
Yeah.
it feels very like I'm sure a lot of people, our listeners, have probably seen this, like very, between 30s Hitler. So, where it's like,
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't say that, but
No, I think it's a lot of people feel like you shouldn't say that. I disagree. I think you should. I think that that's where it's heading.
I just
So,
don't think we should ignore. And I don't know. I just don't think that we should be in denial. Like, it's very scary
mhm.
to live in these times with this kind of thinking in power, this person who thinks like this in power. Um, who wants to really
I
truly center white supremacy and whiteness. And I mean, I don't know.
white Christian nationalism, straightness, neurotypical, able body, all the things, right? Money, wealth. I want to, like, kind of rewind a little bit to the party polarization conversation and, like, the idea that, like, we never had someone with, like, this extreme views, because I think it's actually interesting the way that we've been brainwashed as Americans for our lives to think that George W. Bush is a hero, or even Bill Clinton. And it's so interesting because when I think back, because I did think that, especially when Trump first ran in 2016 and they were doing the Republican debates. That was when I first got really into politics, was Bernie. I saw him on the Today Show in 2015, early 2015, before he was going to run. He was talking about climate change. And I was like, this man needs to run for president. Then he did. That got me locked in. But in the meantime, I was really interested in watching the RNC debates. So I was watching the Republican primary because I wanted to see the differences in their views. And when he was standing up on that stage, next to whoever else was running it. I remember Marco Rubio. I remember Ted Cruz. There was other people running. I do remember thinking like, wow, he is really extreme and he is the worst Republican ever, and all these things, right? But now that I've like really thought about it over the last couple of years and gone back through American history, Richard Nixon, fucking Bill Clinton, again, a Democrat, they're Ronald Reagan,
Reagan.
both of the Bushes.
Let's talk about yes.
Um, once I like clocked all of that in my head and was like, especially with the prison industrial complex, and I went back and noticed all the presidents who supported locking black men up into prison, I was like, maybe they were extreme. We just didn't know it because they were using these coded language of the like, we're locking the criminals up and the cocaine epidemic and the crack and
But they were
the whatever.
introducing to the
Right,
communities.
right. But it's like, now it's like looking back, they actually were as extreme. They were just using coded language that Trump is not using. He's just saying what it is, right?
Right.
And it's so crazy. You know, it's so crazy too, because I remember when Hurricane Katrina happened, my parents got into a huge fight. And this is the mixtape. So just a reminder, my mom is Dominican and my dad is white. Okay. My dad is a Republican, like hardcore. So they got into a huge blowout about Katrina because of G.W. Bush. That's what they used to call him. So that's why I call him that. Because of G.W. Bush. Because my mom was like, he hates black people. And my dad was like, this has nothing to do with race, it's the FEMA and blah, blah, blah. And I remember being super young and like, what are they like, I was like, that's interesting. I don't know anything about the president. But in hindsight, looking back, yeah, we all now know, we don't have the proof or whatever, but we can all make an assumption that Hurricane Katrina was a huge misstep by the government because everybody was black who was like hanging on the roofs of their homes and shit. When we look back, like they were all, the kids used to always ask me this when I taught history, who was your favorite president? It was Teddy Roosevelt. He was my favorite president because of everything he did with the environment, and he was a conservationist and whatnot, right? And then I learned not that long ago, like 2019, that he ordered all of the buffalo to be killed to forcibly starve the Native American tribes. So,
They're all corrupt in some way, shape, or form.
and that's what I used to tell the kids. I was like, honestly, guys, I don't like any of them, but I want you to form your own opinion. I'm
Right.
just
It's
telling
like
you.
I think it's like who's gonna protect the overall best interest. And most of us, our circle of people that we know, are working class people of color, who's or women, or who's gonna protect the best interest of a larger group people that we like, love and care for. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and who's going to like protect the overall interest. Like, let's keep moving forward. Okay, gay marriage was legalized. Now it's like, well, we might have to undo that. No, we were moving forward. I remember voting for that. Like, yep, it's okay with
Yeah.
me. Because like at the time, I was like a couple years ago, maybe 20 years ago, it would have been illegal. We talked about loving versus
Mm-hmm.
so like I wouldn't want that to be undone. I don't believe in telling people what to do with their bodies and who to love and other countries not being safe or helping and aiding in wiping off a whole
Yeah.
population or getting involved with that. Like it doesn't stand for just what's right. Can we just talk about what is like right for the whole?
Mhm.
How are we going to keep moving people forward? Like, and I don't love that we only have two viable options most of the time to choose from. I feel like we should have a few options. Like what about like the Green Party? But like we could go into like a whole bunch of
Yes, no, but that's so important, and that's like we are never gonna have an equal society in America if we continue to just have the two-party system. Like we're just not going to, because we need more diversity and voices.
yes.
And I do want to bring it back to AOC running for president because I'm staring at the sticker of her I have on my computer that says, "But hey, bitches, get shit done." And the thing about her is she is going to run for president. I'm just telling you now, with my psychicness and my political knowledge combined. She's gonna run for president. I think she's gonna lose the first time, or she's not gonna get the nomination the first time, and she'll run again and she'll get it. Because I think that the thing is, we have to think about Bernie. And it's so funny, you said earlier something about how Trump supporters, that's their whole personality. That was my whole personality with Bernie. I'll just be real. I actually had a dream the other day that I was wearing this t-shirt I used to have that said Bernie effing Sanders. I don't know what that represented in my dream, but I think I do know what it means. But anyway, like think about him in 2016. The shit he was saying was so radical about free health insurance. The health insurance was the biggest one I think that people had a problem with. Taxing the rich, his climate change policies. He said Black Lives Matter. He invited Black Lives Matter people to join his campaign at the same time that it was actually happening, not 3 years later, right? And people said he was crazy. But what's crazy is the next election, everybody used his, in 2020, everybody used his talking points. Then you had Joe Biden, a conservative Democrat. I think he's a conservative, period. Quoting Bernie Sanders and being like, well, I believe in Medicare for all. What? That only took 4 years for that to be a popular platform and to say tax the rich and to have this oligarchy tour they're going on and everybody shitting on Elon Musk. That would not have happened in 2016. I'm telling you, it would not. Like, and so I think it's so important that we get more people with extreme views in the right direction to move the window. There's the Overton window. That's the thing, right? Is you're trying to be extreme so you can move it to the middle, but the middle is actually what you want, right? Like, we need that. Like, we need to have more people like Zoran, who's running for mayor of New York City. We have to have like super progressive, socialist, liberal people running. And yes, I am scared for her. I'm scared for her safety, but she needs to do it.
I'm not
And I think
denying
she
that.
does.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I just have my reservation.
And it sucks that, and it does suck that a woman of color is going to have to come in here and fix everything 100%. It does.
I'm like, that's
But
not
I
even much
think,
to clean up.
uh, I do agree with that. I do agree. But oh my God, did you see that clip of Bernie? He was like, I just want to introduce you to my daughter. I was like crying. I
Well,
was just
I do
thinking
like
about how
seeing
much,
them together, taking down the world.
yes,
Like, them against the world. It is
and how
beautiful.
much must that mean to her?
It's hopeful. It is
That's her
hopeful.
political role model. She got involved because of him, and
Yeah.
he's seen her for who she is,
And lifting her up.
elevated her, and that is white male privilege. What Bernie Sanders has done with his life, actually, is the epitome of what a white male should do. I just want to say that. Like, from chaining himself to a black woman at a protest to throwing himself in front of black people to be arrested by the police, all the way to elevating AOC to be the next.
No, I
Next.
I support it. I'm with it. Let's go. I'm gonna be the first to cast my vote.
Yeah.
But so I'm scared. So
Mhm.
I'm worried. I don't like that the continuous hate that is brought about, but I'm hopeful. So let's keep moving forward. On that note, we do have to close out with this
Yes.
beautiful conversation. So I guess we'll close out with intentions. What are your intentions for the week, the rest of the week?
My intentions for the rest of the week is to continue to prioritize my inner peace and enjoy that a little bit more. And I also really want to make an intentional effort to celebrate my successes this year because I haven't done that yet. Officially, I lost 53 pounds and I just didn't acknowledge
Yay!
that. Like, so I want to just take a second and have joy in that,
Do that more often. Yes.
and just everything that's happened this year. It's been the best year of my life, and I haven't taken a second to relish in that a little bit. So that's my intention. And it's a little selfish, but I think that's the point is like, I haven't done it because it feels selfish. So I need to do it.
You're allowed to be selfish
Thank
and you should
you.
celebrate yourself more.
Thank you. How about you, my love? What is your intention?
I think I want to keep centering this let them mentality. I really do. I let myself not let them last week and I didn't like how that made me feel. I was not in like a good headspace. So I'm like, okay, we're refreshing. This has been a new week. Let them. Let them think whatever they want. I can be a villain in a story. I can be the bad guy. I could be completely like just like whatever people need to tell themselves about me to make themselves feel better or justify and deny the harm that they may have caused or did cause, that's okay. Let them think that because I know my truth and I know the truth. My husband likes to say, like, don't say my truth, say the truth. I know the truth, and that's all that matters. And so let them think whatever they want. I'm going to embrace that. Let them. I don't care.
Period. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Proud of you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Well,
Well, we are the Mixtapes Podcast. Please continue to like, follow, subscribe, share. If you would like to join us on the podcast, we're always happy to welcome mixed race individuals, biracial people, people in interracial marriages and relationships, people who are just passionate about racial justice and comfortable talking about race. We believe that one of the keys to unlocking this oppressive world we live in is by having honest and raw conversations about race and justice. And know that you are loved, know that you matter, and tune in next week for some more fun. Peace and love.